Good afternoon and welcome to the World at Noon. I am Temitokwe Olajuwola. Nigerian government approves 5 banks for disbursement of trapped $350 million vessels intervention fund. German man freed more than 4 years after kidnapping in Niger. Bangladesh opposition stages protest as it challenges Prime Minister Hasina. Over 1.5 million people in darkness in Ukraine after Russia attacked energy facilities. After federal government of Nigeria's withholding of the cabotage vessels finance fund for 17 years, President Muhammadu Buhari has finally approved the disbursement of $350 million cabotage vessels finance fund (CVFF) to local ship owners. Speaking at the flag-off ceremony of the third phase of the Nigerian Seafarers Development Program held at the Naval Dockyard in Lagos, the Minister of Transportation, Engineer Muhazu Sambo, disclosed that the President approved 5 banks, Zenith, Polaris, United Bank for Africa, Union and Jaiz, as the primary lending institutions for the disbursement of the fund. The CVFF was an intervention fund created to enable indigenous ship owners build capacity, maintain existing vessels, and also to acquire new ones. The fund had grown to $350 million in 17 years of its existence. Speaking, the Transportation Minister said President Buhari further approved that the fund should be further disbursed to ship owners immediately it hits $50 million threshold in the Treasury single account. Sambo assured that though the CVFF fund, which has hit over $350 million, is warehoused in the Treasury single account of the federal government, it would be transferred to the approved primary lending institutions for disbursement. However, the minister stated that the implementation of the Cabotage Act by NIMASA has further increased the demand for seafarers in Nigeria. He stated that the NSDP initiative targeted training globally competitive officers that will erase the unfortunate discrimination that exists between local and foreign trained officers in practice. German aid organization HELP says a German aid worker has been freed more than 4.5 years after he was kidnapped in Niger. However, in a statement, the organization did not provide details of how or where Jörg Lange, a 63-year-old engineer, was released. It would be recalled that armed men on motorcycles kidnapped Lange in April 2018 near the Nigerian town of Inets in borderlands, where rebel groups, some with link to Al-Qaeda and ISIL, have carried out frequent attacks and kidnappings for many years. An engineer by training, Lange had worked in the humanitarian sector for more than 30 years before he was kidnapped. According to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, at least 25 foreigners and an untold number of locals have been abducted in the Sahel region since 2015. It adds that 5 foreigners remain captive, including Reverend Hans Joachim Löhr, a German priest kidnapped in Mali's capital, Bamako, in November. Others still detained include French journalist Olivier Dubois, who was kidnapped last April from northern Mali, U.S. national Jeffrey Woodke, Australian doctor Ken Elliott, and Romanian national Iulian Gergot, who was abducted from a mine in Burkina Faso and has been held since 2015. A dozen countries, including Belgium, Italy, Poland, and Slovenia, have made a push to significantly lower a planned European Union cap on gas prices as the bloc remains at odds over the terms of a deal during emergency negotiations, while pro-cap countries say the measure would shield their economies from high energy costs. Germany, Europe's biggest economy and gas markets, and the Netherlands have opposed it. They warn it could disrupt the normal functioning of energy markets and deter gas producers from sending much needed fuel to Europe. Reports indicate that diplomats will hold more negotiations tomorrow. Bangladesh Nationalist Party has mobilized tens of thousands of its supporters in Dhaka to protest price rise and demand the Prime Minister's resignation. The party leader, Farooq Islam, joined tens of thousands of opposition supporters in the capital, Dhaka, after traveling nearly 200 kilometers from the southern coastal district of Noakhali, but he had to fake his identity to evade detention ahead of the anti-government rally. The police in the South Asian nation had arrested hundreds of supporters from the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP), which had called for the rally to protest against price increases and demand the resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from the Dhaka rally. BNP's top leadership renewed the call along with the demands for withdrawals of cases against its party. Chief Khalida Zia and a son, Tariq Rahman, both of whom were charged and convicted in what the party says are politically motivated cases. All 7 BNP legislators announced their resignations from the current parliament in protest against what they said was the illegal government led by the ruling Awami League party. Hasina, in power since 2009, is accused of having 2 national elections stained by opposition boycotts and electoral malpractices under her watch, while a government's heavy-handed approaches to suppress political opposition and dissenters have also attracted severe criticism from human rights activists and independent observers. This is the World at Noon, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, Voice of the West, Nigeria. Now, a mid-news message. Nigeria has the potentials of leading the African continent and the world as a whole, hence its incumbent on the citizenry to harness them in the collective interest of all. Ukrainian authorities say all non-critical infrastructures in the southern Ukrainian port city of Odessa was left without power after Russia used Iranian-made drones to hit 2 energy facilities, adding it could take months to repair the damage. President Volodymyr Zelensky had earlier announced that more than 1.5 million people in and the surrounding region had no electricity. According to reports, only critical infrastructure including hospitals and maternity wards had access to electricity. Russia began targeting Ukraine's infrastructure after suffering humiliating military defeats, including withdrawing from Kherson, the largest seized city. Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev, says the country is ramping up production of new generation weapons to protect itself from enemies in Europe, the United States and Australia. Medvedev, who serves as deputy head of Russia's Security Council, announced this on messaging app Telegram, but did not provide details of the weapons. President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly said Russia has been developing new types of weapons, including hypersonic weapons that it boasts can circumvent all existing missile defense systems. Russian-installed and exiled Ukrainian authorities have confirmed that Ukraine has launched an attack on occupied Melitopol in the country's southeast. The pro-Russian authorities say a missile attack yesterday evening killed 2 people and injured 10, while the exiled mayor claimed scores of invaders were killed. The Russian appointed governor of the occupied part of the Zaporizhzhia region disclosed on the Telegram messaging app that air defense systems destroyed 2 missiles, 4 reached with the targets. He said a recreation center where people were dining was destroyed in the Ukrainian attack with HIMARS missile. The exiled mayor Ivan Fedorov wrote on his Telegram channel that the attack hit a church that Russians had turned into a gathering place. Russia's embassy in Washington, D.C. says a group of Russian diplomats visiting Anchorage, Alaska's largest city, has been prevented by U.S. authorities from visiting the graves of Soviet soldiers who died during World War II. The embassy wrote on Twitter that Russian diplomats have visited the cemetery in the past. According to the cemetery's website, a permit is required to access the cemetery on the Fort Richardson U.S. Army installation. 9 Soviet pilots and 2 other military personnel are buried at the cemetery. They died while flying planes from the United States to the Soviet Union as part of the World War II Lend-Lease program. Lend-Lease was an effort begun before the U.S. joined the war to supply allies with materials deemed vital to the defense of the U.S. Diplomatic relations between Russia and the U.S. have been increasingly strained since Russia launched an invasion of Ukraine on February 24. U.S. and Russia recently engaged in a rare instance of cooperation when they negotiated the release of American basketball player Brittney Griner, who was serving 10 months in a Russian prison in exchange for Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout. The 2 countries also traded prisoners in April when Russia released former U.S. Marine Trevor Reed and the U.S. released Russian pilot Konstantin Yarosenko. Here again are the highlights of the world at noon. After federal government of Nigeria's withholding of the Cabotage Vessels Finance Fund for 17 years, President Muhammadu Buhari has finally approved the disbursement of $350 million Cabotage Vessel Finance Fund to local ship owners. German aid organization HELP has announced that a German aid worker has been freed more than 4.5 years after he was kidnapped in Niger. Bangladesh Nationalist Party has mobilized tens of thousands of its supporters in Dhaka to protest price rise and demand the Prime Minister's resignation. We also brought to you that Ukrainian authorities have said all non-critical infrastructures in the southern Ukrainian port city of Odessa was left without power after Russia used Iranian-made drones to hit 2 energy facilities, adding it could take months to repair the damage. And that was the word at noon, edited by Latif Agbola and delivered by Temitope Olayiwola. For more about us, visit www.osbcng.org. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon.